we're kicking off today with Raw, and in the main event, Seth Rollins defeated Jinder Mahal to retain the World Heavyweight Championship in a match that, thanks to Tony Khan, had a ton of buzz. During the match, Mahal came very close to shocking the world once again, but fans who were hoping to see a title change were left bitterly disappointed. Fightful Select now reports that WWE never had any plans for Mahal to win the title, nor did they even consider Damian Priest successfully cashing in and winning the World Heavyweight title. Instead, Raw was always going to go off the air with Rollins standing tall, and that's exactly what the fans in North Little Rock, Arkansas saw this week. Raw may have gone off the air with Rollins standing tall, but the World Heavyweight Champion was looking worse for wear after the match. In a post-show promo, Rollins spoke about the adverse weather that had plagued the show and thanked the fans who had made it to Raw and told them to get home safe. For many fans, though, they were more interested in the noticeable limp Rollins had as he spoke, as it's believed he suffered an injury during the match with Mahal. Rollins will undergo an MRI this week to assess the potential damage to his leg, and with the Royal Rumble mere weeks away, an injury at this time may prove to be disastrous for WWE. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said it'd be really bad for WWE if Rollins needed some months to heal, especially given we're closing in on WrestleMania 40. Not only would Rollins naturally be a part of the show, but he holds a world championship, and is set to enter arguably the most anticipated program in a decade with CM Punk. Meltzer added that even being out for 3 months would result in WrestleMania plans changing, and fans would be left questioning who Punk would face at the Showcase of the Immortals instead. While Punk could perhaps feud with Drew McIntyre, this isn't the feud WWE plans on giving fans, but for now, there's a lot of questions about Seth Rollins and WrestleMania 40. Fans tuning into this week's Raw will have noticed that the show looked very different, as WWE brought in a much different stage for the show compared to what fans are used to. Immediately, fans shared their take on the new stage online, with some speculating that SmackDown could have a new stage soon, but the reason for this change wasn't entirely down to WWE. According to the Wrestling Classic, WWE had to ground rig everything for this particular Raw episode due to heavy snow settling on the roof of the venue. The decision to ground rig everything was made because there was a risk that attaching the usual stage to the venue's ceiling might have exerted too much pressure and risked a collapse. Thankfully, a collapse didn't happen at the Simmons Bank Arena, and while some fans liked this new stage, odds are we won't be seeing it again next week unless the weather gets seriously worse. At New Japan's Battle in the Valley, Jack Perry resurfaced in wrestling for the first time since All In and shocked everyone by tearing up his AEW contract. Before this, Perry jumped the barricade and attacked Sota Umino, which came as a surprise to the fans and the security working the show. While speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer talked about Jack Perry's debut and revealed that security in attendance had no idea about the angle and believed Perry was a fan. Before they could tackle this fan to the ground and eject him from the building, security were told about Perry and the angle, but this situation could have gotten ugly for the former Jungle Boy. Over to NXT as Carmelo Hayes was in tag team action this week, which came as a relief to fans after the scary incident that unfolded last week on SmackDown. Hayes teamed with Trick Williams on the show and used a combined theme, which left Booker T unhappy whenever Trick's theme became Melo's. While Edris Enofé and Malik Blade looked phenomenal against the bigger stars, it was Williams' flash knee that got the win in a phenomenal opener and the best Dusty Classic match so far. The fans are massively behind Trick, who is overshadowing Melo at the moment, and it's great to see the pair get the tag team run they should have gotten long ago. Enofé and Blade, decked in Dusty-inspired polka dots, remain one of the most reliable tag teams in NXT and deserve a serious run soon in NXT or from a main roster call-up. Ilja Dragunov returned to NXT this week after a kayfabe injury from Ridge Holland, and it was clear his absence was felt when he was off TV. Dragunov was supposed to defend the NXT title against Trick Williams, but couldn't wrestle at New Year's Evil, and this week, a new date was set for their title match. In a backstage segment, Dragunov apologized to Trick for missing their original date, and a match was booked for NXT Vengeance Day on February 4th. Carmelo Hayes didn't seem thrilled about this move. After all, the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Cup are going down at the same event, further teasing issues between Melo and his longtime friend. After winning the NXT North American title, Oba Femi declared this week that he'd reached his destiny before Dragon Lee challenged him to a rematch for Vengeance Day. Femi refused to accept just yet, adding that the Open Challenge was closed, and the Nigerian superstar continues to have a presence that instantly makes him a big-time star. A power wrestler with style that can talk for himself, Femi just needs to match the crowd in his promos to come off as a top act, and a full match with Dragon Lee could be very special. Femi still has some work to do, but on this show, genuinely looked like a bigger star next to the more established Dragon Lee. Since 2019, Jon Moxley has been one of the most featured performers for AEW, becoming a multi-time world champion, but as of late, Moxley hasn't been in the title picture. Moxley has challenged for several titles over the past year, but the AEW World title isn't among them, and Samoa Joe isn't too surprised by this. In a recent interview with Sports Illustrated, the reigning AEW World Champion spoke about Moxley, who has been challenging for non-AEW titles as of late. He said, "Moxley doing that doesn't surprise me at all. If I were Mox, I'd look to take someone else's belt too. He wants to fight any other champion in the world but me. There was thought behind what he did, let's not deny that." It remains to be seen if Moxley and Joe ever lock horns, but we do know that Moxley will face new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Tetsuya Naito next month in non-title action. A win over Naito could put Moxley in contention for a title shot, but would you like to see Moxley challenge Samoa Joe when the time is right? Let us know down below. For years, Dolph Ziggler was viewed as one of the most underrated talent in WWE history, who, despite his multiple title reigns, was often overlooked by the promotion. During a WWE PLE kickoff show, Booker T once spoke about Ziggler, saying he could look back on his career and realize how many moments he missed because of his focus on stealing the show. This comment earned Booker some backlash at the time, and during a recent edition of his Hall of Fame podcast, the WCW legend provided some much-needed context. He said, "I made a statement one time on the kickoff show. When I'm on the kickoff show, I'm working. I said Dolph Ziggler's going to look back on his career and he's going to realize how many moments he missed because he always wanted to go out there and steal the show. All the championship wins, all of that because he wanted to steal the show. Man, they ate me up on Twitter for saying that. Haha, man, I'm working. I'm a character here. But nah, man, Ziggler is not underrated. He is truly one of the guys that did it the best. He is truly one of the all-time greats." Ziggler is now competing under his real name, Nick Nemeth, and recently made his debuts for New Japan and TNA Wrestling, and fans are excited to see what's to come. With Nemeth's current momentum, odds are he'll be stealing the show and winning titles outside of WWE, but he won't be overlooked like he was for years as Dolph Ziggler. In 2023, Brian Pillman Jr. parted ways with AEW and almost immediately signed with WWE NXT, where he's been working under the name of Lexis King. Contrary to being overlooked on AEW's massive roster, King has become a prominent name in WWE NXT and is thrilled to be making a name for himself outside of his father's legacy. Speaking on the Insight podcast, King was asked about his WWE arrival and shared just how fast it came together after his AEW run ended. He said, "It wasn't so much a decision as it was a necessary transition. I think my time came up in AEW. It was a great run, a great deal financially, I did very well there. It was that doubt about the future, about whether they were going to use me, and they were going to use me. It became apparent when they didn't re-sign me, so God bless the agents who picked up the phone on the day my contract ran up, and they got me signed. I think I got paychecks from both companies in the same month. That's how quickly the ball got rolling." King also discussed his WWE NXT debut and was grateful for the confidence the company has in him and admitted to spending several months in AEW second-guessing his career and self-worth. While King acknowledges his current success in WWE NXT, he wants to clarify that he holds no resentment towards AEW or his time there, stating that these doubts came from his own mindset. King appreciates the experience gained with AEW both living there and traveling as crucial in shaping him into the performer he is today. Lexis King is set to make a splash in WWE NXT, at least according to the man himself, but what have you made to his gold brand run so far? Sound off in the comments. It was during Hard to Kill that Ash by Elegance, formerly Dana Brooke, debuted for TNA Wrestling, and the elegant wrestler was accompanied by a man. Ash by Elegance took to her Instagram and uploaded a few photos of herself alongside her manager, revealing that George Iceman will be working alongside her. Iceman's bio made it clear he's there to ensure Elegance becomes TNA Knockouts champion, and time will tell if that happens now that they're part of the company. It's safe to say that Tony Khan has a lot of passion for AEW and is fiercely loyal to his roster, and has helped out his talent both in and outside of the ring. Recently, Isaiah Cassidy shared a video on his YouTube channel to discuss his and Mark Quenn's wrestling careers and revealed that Tony Khan offered to pay their college tuition. This was a very generous offer by Khan, but the AEW president insisted the pair maintain a 3.0 GPA, and despite the kind offer, both Quinn and Cassidy declined. The reason for turning down the offer was that both men had reasons for not pursuing college at that time, but both Cassidy and Quinn were blown away by the kindness of Khan's offer. Mark Quinn also made it clear he's ready for an in-ring return following a year-long hiatus due to injury, and we'll have to see how Khan books the popular private party. During Tony Khan's infamous Twitter meltdown, or at least his most recent one, the topic of Hook came up, who has been thrust into a world championship feud with Samoa Joe. Defending his booking against claims of hypocrisy, Khan pointed out that Hook is 28-1 in AEW, unlike Jinder Mahal, who hadn't won on WWE TV in a considerable amount of time. On his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T delved into Khan's comments and said that while Hook may be 28-1, can fans even recall 5 of those wins by the FTW champion? Booker made it clear he's not hating on Hook, but questioned the significance of a winning streak you can't remember, and said he's not seen a ton of buzz about Hook. The WCW legend added that if a wrestler in his ROW promotion was 28-1, he'd be one of the top stars of the company, seemingly insinuating that Hook isn't that. Booker isn't alone in this matter, as on Click This, Kevin Nash said he wouldn't know Hook even if they were sat next to each other, and that Jinder Mahal is simply a bigger star. When shown a picture of Hook during the show, Nash admitted he had no idea who he was, and questioned if Hook was a flyweight wrestler, and asked how much he weighed. Hook will challenge Samoa Joe on tonight's Dynamite in the biggest match of his career to date, but do you agree with what Booker T had to say? Let us know down in the comments. More from NXT, and Tatum Paxley kept her promise to protect Lyra Valkyria, taking the brunt of the offense in their match with Lola Vice and Elektra Lopez, and it was the champ and her ally that got the win. This is the best character work of Paxley's career to date and could end up redefining her legacy in NXT, and Lyra Valkyria can help her become a star. Ridge Holland proved too powerful for Joe Coffey to overcome as he got the win with a clothesline and Michinoku driver, only to be attacked by Gallus after the match. Gallus made a point that Holland has no friends in a fine segment, and while Ridge still isn't clicking with audiences, he has talent and a direction. If the goal is to build sympathy, the post-match Gallus beatdown helped, and we'll have to see if Ridge can find a friend to help after leaving Butch high and dry recently. Now, you never know who may show up in NXT, and this week's show saw an appearance from JBL that nobody saw coming. Josh Briggs was bummed about his faction breaking up, and JBL arrived to offer some advice in an interesting segment inserted right before the main event. JBL told Josh Briggs that he needs to find his true self. He compared it to himself. He wanted to prove to the world that JBL is a great professional wrestler and more than they thought. It'll be interesting to see what's next for Briggs and what his true self looks like, as he could be prepared for a lot in NXT if Shawn Michaels and the crew give him some chances to find his way. In another Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro fought an impressive match in Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne, and it'd be the LWO that'd get the win. An ill-timed commercial break with no picture-in-picture hurt the momentum of this match, but even so, everyone involved was explosive before the moonsault Phoenix Splash combo finish. Wilde had the crowd on their feet during the stretch, and the LWO looked like world beaters and a team that deserved much more on SmackDown than they've been given. The crowd was noticeably more into the LWO than Chase U in this match, but Hudson's signature Chase U taunts got the crowd back. Either team could have advanced, but LWO has a chance to be the one established tag team to make a real impact in the Dusty Classic. This tournament could give the group a chance to regroup and rebuild and showcase a story greater than what fans have seen so far. Trey Bearhill's power surpassed Dijak on this week's NXT, but Dijak still knocked him cold with a discus big boot for the win. Post-match, Lexis King attacked Bearhill and told him to stay out of his business, and while we're yet to see how good Bearhill is, this match going the length it did is a positive sign for him. Bearhill lasted longer than 5 minutes against someone NXT consistently pushes as a potential NXT title contender, so higher-ups must see something in Trey. This match wasn't much to write home about, but showed Bearhill is a focus for NXT, and hopefully he and King can pull this heated rivalry off when they actually wrestle. As King continues to lose in big moments, it's hard to get excited about his immediate future. Perhaps jumpstarting this rivalry with Bearhill will get him back on track. After a wild battle royal, the final four were Roxanne Perez, Fallon Henley, Kiana James, and Kalani Jordan, setting up a fatal four-way with huge stakes. After Izzy Dame saved James from Jordan, Perez caught Jordan with pop rocks to get the pinfall and would have a stare down with NXT Women's Champion Lyra Valkyria. This was a fun main event that made the most of NXT's last quarter, with the women, even the relative unknowns, impressing in the Battle Royal. The final four who advanced to the four-way were the right group of women, and while it's tough to deliver fresh match types, this worked really well for all involved. Perez's win was a shocker mainly due to build, as while the Prodigy is phenomenal, she had no momentum as of late and hasn't settled a rivalry with James and Dame. Henley and James had the obvious momentum, but this could help legitimize Perez again, as she and Valkyria can put on a show stealer at Vengeance Day. And we're ending with AEW as last week's Dynamite Homecoming episode in Daly's place was very special, but for one wrestler, the show made it clear that his time with a faction are at an end. According to Fightful Select, Parker Boudreaux was backstage at the event but wasn't used in any capacity on screen, and Fightful reports that there's no imminent creative plans for him. It was also noted that Boudreaux is no longer part of the Mogul Embassy faction, despite being a part of it since its early days, as was Trench, who has since been let go from AEW. Sources who spoke to Fightful said that Parker isn't considered a member, and his affiliation with the stable was actually removed from his AEW roster listing in recent months. Parker Boudreaux holds significant potential, and being relatively young, there's ample opportunity for him to build a career in the ring, but that'll depend on how Tony Khan next utilizes him. What do you think of this story concerning Parker Boudreaux? Do you think AEW will ever use him properly? Let us know in the comments.